regarding the legitimacy of the children and also the property right, particularly the inheritance right of the children. So in this regard, I have pointed out section 16. And the section 16 I have already discussed. I think that the first part of the section 16, it is regarding the void marriage. And the children born out of the void marriage, they are being legitimatized. The second in regards to voidable marriage, and the children born out of voidable marriage, they are also being legitimatized. The third part is that no doubt children are being legitimatized under subsection 1, subsection 2. But right of inheritance, it is only provided in relation to the property of their parents. And this right is not provided to the children of void and voidable marriage in relation to the property of the other persons. So we have discussed all the things today, as I have pointed out yesterday. Today I want to discuss live-in relationship and the property right of the children born out of the live-in relationship. In this regard, I want to refer a very important Supreme Court decision, and decision is Vidyadhari versus Sukrana Bai. I am repeating again the decision, Vidyadhari versus Sukrana Bai. This is actually the decision given by Supreme Court, and this is very landmark decision. Why? This is landmark decision because here the children born out from the live-in relationship, inheritance right is being provided. So under this decision, they are declared as a legal heir and granted inheritance right to the children from the relation of the live-in relationship. Before this decision, actually two more decisions, they were also from the Supreme Court. The first one, that is Bharat Mata versus Vijaya Raghunathan. Bharat Mata versus Vijaya Ranganathan. And the second decision is Revansi Dappa versus Mallikarjun. These are the two decisions where it has been pointed out that the children born out of live-in relationship, they are not entitled to succeed the property. So these two decisions, they are very important decisions. So under section 16, actually, children, I have already repeated 2 times the name of the case. This is the landmark decision, and the name of the case is Vidyadhari versus Sukrana Bai. In this case, the children born out of live-in relationship. If I close down your voice, otherwise it is not possible. Akhilesh Yadav, close down your voice because I am getting echo. Akhilesh Yadav, close down your voice. I am getting echo regularly. Are you able to hear me, Akhilesh Yadav? No. This is a landmark decision because actually legal heirship has been declared in favor of the children born out of live-in relationship. Before this decision, actually two more decisions. One is Bharat Mata versus Vijaya Ranganathan, and the second one, that is Rivan Sidappa versus Mallikarjun. These are the two decisions which are earlier decision to this Vidyadhari, and here it has been declared that the children born out of live-in relationships, they are not entitled for inheritance right. So this is very important development. You should be very clear that right now, if any child or children born out of live-in relationship, legitimacy has also been provided to that child. Apart from that, inheritance right also been given. But this inheritance right is only limited from the property of the parents. They are not entitled to succeed the property of the other relations. Now, after these decisions, I want to come on the divorce topic. Before opening the divorce topic, I want to put certain backgrounds. This is being actually called as a dissolution of marriage. And here actually the theories, this is academic, this is not legislative. It is academic, where it has been pointed out that so far as the dissolution of marriage or divorce, there are four theories which are prevalent. One theory is known as the fault theory. Second one is known as the breakdown theory. Third one is mutual consent theory. And the last one is customary divorce and divorce under special enactment. So these are the four theories which are prevalent in the area of the divorce. These are the four theories which are prevalent in the area of the divorce. Firstly, I want to take up the fault theory. As the name appears, fault means what? Fault of either of the parties. If the either of the party is at the fault, the other party has right to file the petition for divorce and get the decree of divorce. Here actually this fault theory, this theory may be divided into two parts. One is seek the divorce on the fault of the other. And the second one, where the wife can only seek the divorce on the fault of the husband. So here fault theory, it is very clear fault theory that if any party is at the fault, he is committing any fault. What kind of the fault? The fault which is enumerated in section 13(1). There are 9 grounds which are enumerated. And if any party is on the fault, committing any fault in relation to 9 grounds, naturally the other party has a right to file the petition and get the divorce decree. These 9 grounds are adultery, cruelty, desertion, unsoundness of mind. Next one, venereal disease. After that, renouncing the word. And last one, not known for 7 years. So actually previously this was the ground which are being actually called as a ground for divorce under 13(1). There were 9 grounds, but one ground is being repealed by 2019 Act. There is a Marriage Law Amendment Act 2019, and where actually leprosy has been removed from the ground. So the leprosy actually as a ground has been removed not only from Hindu Marriage Act, Special Marriage Act also, and similarly also Adoption and Maintenance Act, leprosy has been removed. The reason is very obvious, because leprosy has been treated as a disease which is curable one. So therefore, this is not made as a ground for divorce. This is not made as a ground for divorce. So this is the first theory which I pointed out. This is called as a fault theory. And in fault theory, the reason is when either of the party is on the fault, or the second, when only husband is on the fault, then the right wife will get. Here again 4 grounds are written, and this is 13(2). Under 13(2), actually 4 grounds are being mentioned, and on these 4 grounds, the wife is entitled to file the petition for the divorce and get the decree of divorce. These grounds are: first, when the husband is guilty of bigamy; second, when the husband is guilty of sodomy, bestiality, when husband is actually guilty of bestiality, sodomy, and rape. The third ground, when the maintenance decree is being passed, either in 125 or in Hindu Marriage Act or Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. And after passing of that maintenance decree, if the parties, they are not cohabiting with each other, and the period is also mentioned here, the period which is mentioned, the period is that 1 year or upward. And the last one, that is 4th, wife has additional ground. And the 4th one is, this you may categorize as an option of poverty as a Muslim law. And in this, actually, if the marriage has been solemnized before the age of the 15 of any girl, then option is given to girl that she may continue with the marriage or she may repudiate the marriage. So this is also a ground. If any marriage solemnized before the age of 15 of the girl, now the girl has a right to repudiate the marriage when she attaining the age of majority. So this is actually called as a fault ground. After fault ground, there is another theory. That theory is called as a breakdown. So far as the breakdown is concerned, you can go through the provision of 13(1)(a). Here 2 grounds are mentioned for breakdown 3A. The first ground is where judicial separation decree has been passed against either of the parties. Even after passing of the judicial separation decree, parties are not in a position to cohabit with each other. So this is actually breakdown theory. So under this theory, the grounds are 2. The first ground, when judicial separation decree has been passed, Parties are not able even after that to cohabit with each other for a year of one or upward. The second one, if restitution of conjugal right decree has been passed and parties are not able to restitute for 1 year or upward, then this is actually called as breakdown. Breakdown means actually, if there is a breakdown means this is the major failure. This word you may also used or you may heard in case of electricity. When there is a failure of electricity, sometime you are getting the message there is a breakdown. Breakdown means what? Electricity is completely failed. Why? Because of certain major reasons. And it requires some change of the wire. Similarly, also here in the breakdown. Breakdown marriage means marriage has been failed. And what is necessary? It is essential that the party should be changed. Then only the marriage may continue. Now, one thing more I want to put before you, and this is very relevant for the students which are preparing for the competitive examination. Here, another grounds most confusing, irretrievable breakdown theory. Here, what is written only breakdown. Two grounds are mentioned. And in the irretrievable breakdown, here, this is the concept which is not actually the concept prevailing in this Indian legislation, but this is the Western concept. Irretrievable breakdown means when the marriage has been irretrievably broken down. If the marriage has been irretrievably broken down, then this may be a ground and divorce may be obtained. Here actually, if you go through the Hindu Marriage Act, you will not get this ground. But 2 times, the government have made the efforts to introduce it as a ground under the Hindu Marriage Act. One time that was 1981, and the second time that was the 2013. So if you go through the bill, this cannot be passed in form of the enactment. This has been in the form of the bill. So Marriage Law Amendment Bill 1981. Similarly, also Marriage Law Amendment Bill 2013. You will get irretrievable breakdown as a separate ground which is being added. Now here the bill is containing the provision that suppose the parties they are failed to cohabit with each other for 3 years continuously. If they are failed to cohabit for 3 years, then this may be a ground for the divorce. But unfortunate is neither the bill of 1981 could be passed, nor the bill of 2013 could be passed. So irretrievable breakdown, it is only a concept, which is hearsay concept. We have no provision in Hindu Marriage Act 1955, but the efforts were being made from the side of the government to add it as a special ground. And particularly in 2 enactments, this ground is going to be added. One is Hindu Marriage Act, another is Special Marriage Act. In Hindu marriage, actually Hindu society also treated as a progressive society. And the Special Marriage Act, it is only meant for the progressive society only. So here, in relation to these two, this amendment has been introduced. But this bill was being failed it was not converted into the enactment. Now the third ground or third theory, this is called as a mutual consent theory. Mutual consent means by the consent of both the parties. So here the petition may be filed on the basis of the mutual consent of both the parties, and the provision in this relation is section 13B. Section 13B, the provision is being given. Under 13B, if the parties, they are not able to live together for 1 year and they, if mutually agreed, they may file the petition for divorce. This is called as mutual consent theory. And the last, that is the theory which is actually under the Hindu Marriage Act, which is a provision which are given. And the provision is section 29(2) of Hindu Marriage Act, where you can get the customary divorce. Customary divorce means the divorce which is prevailing in the custom of the both the parties. There is any customary mode for the divorce, because I think that you are all knowing well, in certain castes, this is actually prevalent in the form of the custom. This is called as Farkatnama, Chuttanama. So actually this is not recognized as a ground under the 13, but it has been protected under 29(2). If parties carrying any custom where a special manner is given, a special way is given for divorce in the custom, then this is called as customary theory. In the same, there is another also part, divorce under special law. There are certain special law which are being enacted, Marg Mathadiyam law, Aliyasthanam enactment. These are the enactment which are being passed. And if there is any special thing which is written in this enactment, the parties may avail it and petition may be filed for the divorce on that ground. So this is all about the theory of the divorce. Any person having any doubt, come out. Any doubt? No doubt? May I proceed further? Any person having any doubt? Please come out, voice.
सर फॉल्ट में क्या क्या हम इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं, क्या फॉल्ट होगा?
फॉल्ट में मैंने बताया ना कि 13(1) में फॉल्ट के ग्राउंड दिए गए हैं। सेक्शन 13(1) में फॉल्ट के ग्राउंड दिए हैं। अगर कोई भी पार्टी वो फॉल्ट करती है तो उसके आधार पर डाइवोर्स का सूट लाया जा सकता है और डिक्री प्राप्त की जा सकती है। Now, one by one, I am taking. Firstly, I am taking the fault ground. I have divided this fault ground into two parts. One is being called as fault of the either of the parties, and the second is being called as fault of the husband. If the husband is committing the fault, one is actually section 13(1). Another is section 13(2). Here, grounds are mentioned, and if husband is committing this fault which is provided under 13(2), then the wife may file the petition. Now, I have already pointed out here, so far as the fault of either of the parties is concerned, here 8 grounds are provided. Earlier 9 ground was there, but in 2019, 1 ground was being deleted. That is leprosy, which was earlier the ground, but after 2019, this is being actually deleted. Now, the grounds which are being provided, I just enumerate before you: desertion, adultery, cruelty, unsoundness of mind, venereal disease, renouncing the word, and parties not known for 5 years. These are the 8 grounds which are being actually specified therein. One by one, we shall take up each grounds. Firstly, I want to take up the desertion. Desertion means what? This word desertion, earlier used in relation to armed forces. If any of the soldier, he deserted the army, then this word was being used for that soldier. Hindi word is very clear, bhagoda. A person who has deserted the army, he was being called as a deserter. The same meaning here also given as a ground for divorce. Here desertion means when one party had left the company of the other. This is being classified as a desertion. One party has left the company of the others without any reasonable cause, without the consent of other parties, and the statutory period is being provided in the same clause for 2 years. The statutory period is being specified. That statutory period is for 2 years, continuous 2 years. So if either of the party has withdrawn the company of the other party without any reasonable cause, without the consent of that parties, and if 2 years continuously he or she deserted with others, then naturally it has been made as a ground for the divorce. Now here whole desertion topic, or we can say the kind of desertion, keeping in view the kind of desertion, we may categorize into 3 categories. One is actual desertion. Actual means when there is a desertion between the parties. This is actual. In fact, second is constructive desertion. Constructive means parties are living together but having no relationship with each other. The relationship of husband and wife is actually that one should be in company of the other for support, and suppose they have no any talking terms, they have no any relation, this is called as constructive desertion. And the third kind is willful neglect, which is being provided in the explanation. If you go through the bare provision, where the desertion has been made as a ground, 8 grounds are already specified, and then lastly explanation is given. And that explanation which is given, this explanation is in relation to the willful neglect. Willful neglect means if one party is not taking the care of the other intentionally. So if he is not taking the care of the other intentionally, then this is a ground of the willful neglect. So here the desertion may be of the three category. One is actual desertion, second one that is constructive desertion, and the third one that is willful neglect. So far as the actual desertion is concerned, actual means in fact there must be desertion. In fact means actually one party has left the company of the other and which is apparently visible, left the house of the one. So one party if left the house, then this is called as actual desertion. Here for actual desertion, 5 requirements are being laid down. These are essential 5 requirements. If all 5 requirements are present at a time, then the case may be of actual desertion. The first one, factum of separation. Factum of separation means actually this is the fact which is very clear that one party has left the company of the other. This is called as factum of separation. The second one, it is called as a animus diserendi. Animus diserendi means this is the intention. First, there must be fact which coming out that one party has left the company of the other. And second, that leaving is with intention. Intention, that is very important. Sometimes what happens? Sometimes happen that the party is not leaving intentionally. So intention also plays very important role. And the third one, desertion should be without any reasonable cause. There must not be any reasonable cause. And the fourth one, that desertion should be without the consent of the other party. If the one party has deserted the company with the consent of another party, then this cannot be called as a desertion. And mostly happen. Suppose husband or the wife, he or she is the student. And for study purposes, suppose one has to go away from the company of the other. This is also desertion, but here this element is not complete. Fact is coming out that one party has left. But here desertion is with the consent. One party has consented that other party should go for the study. Similarly, it may also happen that there are the person who are in the employment of the army. They are in the employment of the army. Suppose they are being in another place, not the place of the wife. Only due to the reason of employment, then this is also called as with consent. So if there is a desertion with consent, then this cannot be called as a desertion. And the last element is that statutory period which is prescribed. The statutory period which is prescribed, it is required to be 2 years. If 2 years has completed, then this will be a ground for filing the petition. So for maturity of the petition, it is required that 2 years has passed. So this is regarding the desertion. 5 elements required to be complied with at a time. I am repeating again all the 5 elements. First one, there must be factum of separation. factum of separation means by fact it is coming out that one party has left the company of the other. The second one, animus diserendi. Animus means intention, that leaving by one party to the company of the other, it may be with intention. If it is without any reasonable cause, then naturally this come under the category of desertion. If there is any reasonable cause, then this will not be a desertion. And last, without the consent of other party. Where there is a consent, it cannot be desertion. A statutory period required, that is the 2 year has completed. If that 2 year has been completed, then it is sufficient for filing the petition. Firstly, I want to take up the first two grounds. Factum of separation and animus diserendi. If both are present at a time, simultaneous, then only it will provide a ground for desertion. Then it will provide a ground for desertion. Here the cases, there are certain cases by which I want to explain that how it is required that party should have factum and animus both. Here the case which is being prescribed, the case is Bipin Chand versus Prabhavati. This is the decision of the Supreme Court 1957. Here this case will explain fully that factum of separation and animus should be present at a time. If both are not present at a time, then this cannot be a ground for desertion. Here actually in this case, the marriage took place in the year of 1942. And the wife, after the marriage, resides with the husband in Bombay, along with the husband's parents and the two sisters. Up to 1947, marriage was, up to 1956, marriage was very smooth. One son also born out of that wedlock. In 1947, actually one family friend came in the family. Name of that family friend was the Mahinder. He joined the family in 1947. After that, actually, the husband had some work in the foreign country and he left the matrimonial home to perform that work in England. When the family friend came, Mahinder, there was allegation that the wife was intimated with the Mahinder. One letter also interrupted by the father of the husband, which was written by the wife to the Mahinder. When the husband came back from the foreign tour, this letter was being put by the father before the husband. When the explanation was called by the husband to the wife refused from the fact that she wrote this letter. After this incident, here, one marriage was going to be solemnized in the father's house of the wife and the wife left the husband's house in order to attend that marriage, and that marriage was her cousin's marriage, and she wanted to join the marriage ceremony. When she left the husband house, here the husband actually sent a notice through the advocate to the wife and put the charges of adultery against her, that she was intimately connected with the Mahendra. In spite of that, wife was ready to return back in the house of the husband. This message husband received from his mother, that Prabhavati is returning back, Prabha is returning back. When he came to know this fact, he sent a telegram to in-laws, don't send the Prabha. So this is actually the fact which I put before you. Now by this fact you may analyze that whether both the elements are present or not. So far as the factum of separation is concerned, this fact is very much apparent and coming out from the case, because wife had left the company of the husband, wife had left the house of the husband. But for what purpose? In order to attend the marriage of her cousin. The question was whether intention was also being there. Here intention was lacking. The wife no doubt left the house of the husband, but this intention was not there, that she was leaving permanently the company or the house of the husband. She had intention only to attend the marriage and return back to the house of the husband. So here the approach of the Supreme Court was the same. Here the Supreme Court has pointed out here, this is not a case of desertion. The reason was being provided. The reason was being provided that here one element was present, that is factum of separation, but another element, animus deserendi, it was not present. Therefore, this is not case of the desertion. The intention, this is not the criminal law case that intention may be translated into action. Here intention no doubt inferred, but inference is that she was ready to come back with the house of the husband. But this was the action of the husband which restrained her not to join the house of the husband. So that's why here only one element was there, factum of separation. But in animus or intention has been lacking here. So we shall continue tomorrow with the same. Any doubt any person has?
So it is written that the woman claimed that the petitioner that after returning England, the petitioner made her life unbearable and compelled her to leave the matrimonial home against
No,
her wishes.
It is not written anywhere. She wanted to return back, but actually husband did not permit her to return back to the home. If she returned back to the home, then naturally this is not a case of desertion. I am not getting the message. Actually, it has disappeared. Tell me. Tell me.
16 का clause 2 and 3 को थोड़ा explain कीजिएगा. 16 clause 2 and 3.
Eh?
Section 16 का
Clause 2 is in
and 3.
relation to voidable marriage. Section 16, clause 2, it is regarding the voidable marriage. Children born out of voidable marriage, legitimacy has been provided. And 3 is in relation to right of inheritance. The children which is born, which has been declared as a legitimate under the clause 1 and clause 2, they have a right of inheritance of the property from only the parents, not from the other relatives also. Are you getting?
It means ancestral property में वो inherent नहीं प्राप्त करेंगे.
Ancestral property, this is the property which is coming out from the ancestors. So they cannot inherit unless and until it is a self-acquired property. Okay,
Sir,
now
miss-
right, time is over.
मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फैक्ट जैसे उस ग्राउंड होगा डाइवोर्स का, मतलब अगर जैसे हस्बैंड लाई कर रहा है अपनी वाइफ को, तब
वो तो मैंने आपको बताया था whether it is coming under the fraud or not. This is the voidable ground for the voidable. And I think that yesterday we have discussed the whole. If misrepresentation is important for the marriage institution, naturally it is very relevant. If it is not very important for the marriage institution, then the court has not provided the remedy. So it depends upon the misrepresentation, whether it is regarding the material fact or it is only usual fact. If this is material fact, then naturally it is important.
So if under section 13, if a grandfather does a will for the child born
By will.
out of by will, he can do, if that property is grandfather self-made, then in that case the property can be transferred to the child who
Right to
has,
understand, this is only inheritance right. Inheritance
Okay.
right means to inherit the property.
okay sir,
By other transaction, the property may be transferred.
yes sir,
This is inheritance right given to the children. This is the birthright. Every person has a birthright that he will inherit the property of the parent.